in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to this week's BizSmart Lunch and Learn webinar. Our weekly webinars are aimed to provide advice and share knowledge amongst business owners on key business topics. This is part of our service to our Smart Room members. If you're not already a member or a BizSmart client and would like to access our archive of webinars, then please visit our website bizsmart.co.uk and go to the Smart Room page. Our host joining me today is BizSmart Select member Les Gutteridge from 101 System Works. Before we start the webinar, can I ask you all to use the question mark function on your screen to post any questions you may have, and Les will answer them all at the end of the session. Thank you, Les, and over to you.
Thanks, Mel. Hello everybody and welcome to the webinar which I've called Pivotal Moments. And as it says on the screen in front of you, that people do sort of worry about pivot tables and think that they are a bit of a mystery. But what I endeavoured to do this afternoon even, is to find a way of showing you that it's not that bad. So a bit about me. Those people that do know me know that I do dazzling databases, sparkling spreadsheets and so on. And yes, less is more. Can't tell you a lot in half an hour, but I can certainly tell you a lot more if you on a one-to-one with me. So let's get cracking. It is called Pivotal Moments, and what are we in for? What do you do before you actually start your pivot table? Tables, there are such a thing as tables in Excel which actually make it easier for your pivot table to function. What is the real starting point for a pivot table? And what other things can you do? There's things called grouping, refreshing, filters, slices, and you can have pivot charts. So let's get cracking and we'll find out what we're up for. Pardon me, just going into Excel. I would be if I wasn't fumbling. So there we go. So what I've got here is a table full of 1,500 pieces of information about, it's made up, but basically all these people are shoved in a division. Within that division there's a department and there's other bits of information there that you might want to summarize. So in essence, a pivot table is a way of summarizing that information. And you can actually turn that data into a short summary like this, or you can turn it into grouped information like this, where you've got a count up of who registered with the company in these months, in these years, and you can close that information up, look, and it actually recalculates and finds you the group answer rather than the individual month answer. So that looks fascinating. How do you do it? Here we go, back to the data, and let's tell you what the real starting point is. The real starting point is that, first of all, this table should follow 3 golden rules. The first golden rule is that you must not have any free rows or free columns. In other words, completely empty rows and completely empty columns. Because if I do this and insert an entire row, then I've actually created 2 tables out of the information, and it will be more difficult for you to summarize the information if you do that. So don't put any empty rows or empty columns in there just for cosmetic purposes. If you do want it to look a bit deeper for the heading, just pull the line down so that you can actually have a bit more colour at the top. I'm not putting a new line in, I'm just making that one line deeper. Secondly, there is another special unit in Excel called a table. And this in front of you is a list. If you wish to turn that list into a table, then one of the golden rules that I haven't outlined yet is this. You only need to be on one cell within the list in order to do tabular activities. So if you're going to sort that list, if you're going to filter that list, if you're going to turn that list into a table, as I am now, you only really need to be on one cell within that table. And to turn a list into a table is easy. You just remember the keyboard press, which is Control T. And as soon as you press Control T, up pops a little dialog box which tells you what the cells are that are being involved in that list. So it tells you, if you ignore the dollars, it tells you that it's from cell B5 down and across to J1543. So lots and lots of rows. If you do that, then you get extra features from it being a table. One being that up here you can actually give it a name. So I'm just going to call it TBL, which is my shorthand for table, PT. TBL for a pivot table, PT. So press enter so that name takes effect. And whenever you want to create something else based on that table, then like we are about to, we're going to turn it into a pivot table, then it will throw up that name that you've just created. So enough about tables. We're supposed to be talking about pivot tables. So how do we turn this into a pivot table? So remember, this is what we're about to create, and I'm just about to show you how to do it. So surprisingly not, there is a tab up here that says Insert. If you give it a click, immediately you see on the first of the buttons here is the chance to insert either a pivot table or a pivot chart. I'll talk about pivot charts later, because the method of creating a pivot table is used in order to create a pivot chart. So learning one has a double effect. So here we go. I'm about to turn that information into a pivot table. So look here, that name that I put up for the table itself has actually reared its head here. And it saves you having to remember how far the drop of the information is, because that name actually holds a lot of secrets, and it tells Excel all the dimensions of the range of the data. So usually I'll leave this dialog alone. So the offer of where the data is coming from is usually correct because of the golden rules I mentioned earlier. And usually I create a pivot table on a new worksheet. So I'm just going to go with the flow with that one and clicking OK. And on the new sheet that's created, as you can see, it's called sheet 1. We'll give it a name properly in a moment when we've decided what we ought to call it. What it does is, over in this working area over here, which is the pivot table field list, it actually brings up the headings from the top of the columns in that table so that you can grab them in order to create the pivot table. I'm going to go back to my example. So down here are the row headings for the divisions, and across here are the column headings which are created from the departments, and in here is the adding up of the how many staff there are in each department and division. So back to the one I'm building. Literally what we've got to do is either click these on or drag them into place. I prefer to drag them into place because I feel as though I know where I'm going if I actually physically drag them where I want them. So literally I'm going to drag division so that it gives me row labels. And over here we've got an immediate response giving you one individual non-duplicate value from all the different divisions that are in the data. I'm going to drag department to the column labels and I'll get another immediate response so that the headings, again we've got unique headings. And then to do the maths, either you can do count ups, you can do sums, you can do averages, you can do other statistical things, but the three that I've gone through are the usual three that people want. And to do that, you drag another field heading into that spot. Now, if you actually drag a text field name into there, it will automatically decide to count up how many there are in each of the spots in the table. So literally if I pulled the employee ID into that spot there, it would count up, and there we go, straight away. Look, it's counted up how many of this original data, how many people were in central training, and so on and so forth. It does it immediately, and to my mind it's pretty amazing how quickly it does the job. I always say to people, just think how long that would have taken you with a paper and pencil method in order to do well, at school we used to call these tally charts. So if you made a mistake and pulled the wrong field on, then you can just literally drag it off, drop it onto the sheet, and as long as you can see the cross on the mouse, you can be sure it will go. I'm just about to let go of my mouse now so that it vanishes. And if I pulled this field instead into this box, because it's a numerical field, let me just go to the data to show you. It's this field. Because it's numerical, it will actually decide to add up automatically. As you can see, it says sum of the quantity sold. So to get an immediate reaction from the spreadsheet, from the pivot table, is pretty amazing. So at its simplest, what do we need to know? We need to know the starting point. I'll just run through that again. You mustn't have any empty columns or rows in the table. It makes a lot of sense to turn the list into a table. Remember, that's Control T. When it's a list, starting the pivot table is the biggie. As long as you remember where the starting point is, I often say to people, you begin to get into familiar territory and you're able to continue without much effort as soon as you start the ball rolling. So remember, it's insert, sorry, you've got to be on the data. It's insert, pivot table, and once you start there, it does begin to remind you what you should be doing. So after a few goes at a pivot table, I should think you'd be able to carry on without much effort. So there's the one I've just done. Up in the sky up here is the pivot table tools, which appear only if you're in the middle of the pivot table, look. And with these two, you've got a lot of features that you can adopt and adapt. So, for example, if you didn't like that colour scheme there and you wanted this colour scheme, then you know, you just drop this colour scheme down and you can do a cosmetic job on the data if you want to. Similarly, these headings here might not suit you, but you can over-type them. So it would be better if I said division there instead of what it says. And it would be better if I said department there instead of that. And if you wanted to just say tally or something more meaningful, then you can. And that's fabulous. Incidentally, these cells, they are hotspots. And surprisingly, you can actually double click them. And if you double click this one, for example, what it's done is it's created a new sheet with all the people in there that were part and parcel of that cell's calculation. I hope that makes sense. Does it make sense to you, Mel?
It makes sense.
Oh, right, bless her. She had to say that because I was sitting by her. So basically, these are hotspots, and if you double click them, you will get a subset of data out of the main data, which is really here. So that's a bit miraculous. So I've done one example. If you don't like the way those numbers are, you could alter the settings. You can alter the math so that it becomes an average. Looks to be bolting. I think we'll go back. You can actually, I right click there and I'm going to go for value field settings. You can actually alter the number format. So at the moment it's in what we call general format, and if you wanted numbers with commas in with no decimal places, I hope you're with me because I'm expecting you to know that what this does. But when I click OK, look, the presentation of the numbers is better. Speaking as an ex-maths teacher, I do prefer the commas in there because it's more readable. Okay, so I've done a few things extra to just creating the pivot table there. So remember, you can alter the titles, you can double click the spots, you can right click the what's called the value area of the table, and you can alter the value field settings if you want to, so that the presentation of the numbers is the way you want it. I'm going to do another one now because I want to outline how I created this, because it's extremely usual to come across people wanting to analyse their income, possibly their count ups, whatever, in a timely way rather than a numerical way. So what we want to be able to do is what we call grouping the information. So that instead of dealing with individual dates as we are in the main data here, we're actually going to put those that are in September 2013 and December 2007 into a little count up spot of its own. So here we go. This is how to do it. So I'm on one cell only in the table. That's the golden rule. I'm going to insert another pivot table. I'm beginning to remember now and feel my way. It's told me that the table is named. It's told me at the moment that I'm going to stick it on a new worksheet. I could stick it on the same one that I just put the other one in, but they do tend to interfere with one another, so it's probably best if you have them on separate sheets. So I'm here again. This time I'm going to put the departments as the column headings. No, I'm not. I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to go for divisions. So I'm going to put the divisions there, and I'm going to pull down the started. This is the date field to there. And as soon as I do that, look, all the individual dates, I don't know how many there are, who cares, I'm not going to go to the bottom, but there's a load of individual dates. And what we want to do is bunch those individual dates together so that if there are repeats of these dates, then they're bunched under the month possibly, or you could just bunch them under the years, or you could bunch them under quarters. It's usually months, years and quarters, but you can go mad and get even smaller bunchings if you want to. So what we want to do is we want to be able to count up something possibly. It might be that you want the quantities in those months. So let's have a go at that. It's doing okay. So far I've actually only done exactly what I did in the first pivot table. This is the new bit. What you do is you aim at that, one of those representatives of the dates, and when you right click you actually get the chance to do grouping, look, which I'm going to click now. And just pulling this aside so that we can see what happens. So if I go forward with this, it's actually going to just group the months. Now, don't leave it just at that, because what it will do is it will put March 2007 with March 2008 and March 2009 and so on. What you want is something extra so that you actually get March 2007 separate from the others, if you get me. So unexpectedly, what you can do is you can click another title in that list there. So if I go forward with this, it will actually group me years and months within those years. I hope that makes sense. So here we go. So there we are, very simple. It's recalculated what the totals are for each of those months. You can close these up, look. A minus button always means take away detail in Windows. A plus button means you can add detail back in. So you can close these up if you want to, because you might only be interested in the years, but having the chance to open out the months as well is a bonus. So I usually put both in personally because I think it's a great thing. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left, so I just want to talk about 3 things. Pivot charts. Here's a pivot chart. This information is based on the same data that I've been playing with all session. So it is actually a graphical summary of the information in that table. And there are things called filters and there are things called slices. I'll show you what those are in a second. Let's do a pivot chart. Back to the data. First golden rule, one cell in the table. Second, remember, is insert. Third, it's over here. But this time we're doing a pivot chart. Familiar territory. I'm clicking OK. And this time we've got 2 hotspots that are going to fill in as I use the features down here. So here we go. I'm going to drop these in there. I'm going to drop that in there. And I'm going to count up the people by dropping that in there, look. And as soon as you do all of that, the pivot chart responds to what you've set up. If you want to filter those out, you can actually cut out, look, some of the information so that it's just looking at 2 of the divisions instead of all 4 of them. That came from this button. You can switch them on and off. I can alter what we're looking at department-wise as well, look. I think that's a pretty amazing feature. Okay, running out of time. Filters. What are filters? A filter is what you put in this box here, and it has an effect up here. It's a bit similar to what I was just doing with the tick boxes, because if I click that down, look, you get the chance just to see the central information, or offshore only, or if you click that button on, you can do what I did before on the chart, look, by having multiple ticks. So these are, but you need to know what the, you need to know, if you're going to print this out and give it to somebody, then you need to give some more meaningful titles on there, because it doesn't actually always tell you exactly what's on view at any one moment. Hope that's okay. So that's just merely pulling this into the filter box down here. And finally, slicers. This is a slicer. I'm going to get rid, and I'm going to put it back in again, because up here, and this is only available from 2010 onwards actually, a slicer. So if you've got Office 13 or 365 or 16, you'll be alright to get a slicer. But on here, pivot table options, look, it says insert a slicer, which I'm going to do. And all you do is you literally choose, it's like a little control panel basically. So if I go for department rather, and switch that on, look, what this is doing is it's like a go button. You can actually summarize and slice the information into groups. You can actually have more than, I've just control clicked the slicer, and it's actually allowing me to pick up more than one. To remove the filtering totally is you just click this button. So how did I do that? I was clicked in the table, I was on pivot table options, insert a slicer, and there you go. I've just realised there's one final vital thing that you need to know, and that is if you alter the data in here. So if I put in a massive number in there, unfortunately a pivot table is not like a normal spreadsheet. It won't automatically dynamically change unless you make it. So I need to find sheet 1. To make it refresh, you literally have to either right click it and refresh it that way, or go up to here and you go to options and refresh. And if you do that, I can't see where I've put it now, but I've put a massive number in somewhere. Oh, there it is, look. It's reacted to my having put in nearly 1 million extra into there. So don't forget that a pivot table will not refresh. Come to the end. Hope it was okay. Please let me know if there's anything you want to know about that. You can actually email me. I'll put my email. Well, Caroline's going to send an after webinar email to everybody, so it'll have my details. If there's anything you want to know, just come back to me and I'll be happy to help you.
Thank you, Les. We have another number of questions for you to answer, if that's okay. So first up from Susan, is it possible to display the text in the data area of the pivot table?
Unfortunately not. You can only display numbers in here, so it will only summarise mathematically. It won't put the text in for you in here. You can do it in a pivot table in Access, but you can't do it in Excel.
Okay, thank you, Les. And another question from John, is it possible to make pivot table using multiple sources of data?
Yes, when you create the pivot table to start off with, I'll go to here, you can, I'm just about to start a new one. You can actually tell it to put in an extra, if you put a comma in there, you can actually go somewhere else and include data of a similar nature at that point. So you can have more than one range in there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much today, Les. We really appreciate you hosting today's webinar.
My pleasure.
As Les stated, we'll be sending out a copy of the presentation and also Les's contact details. So if you have any further questions, you can email Les directly. Before we close, just a quick reminder, this webinar is part of our service to our Smart Room members. If you're not already a member or a BizSmart client and would like to access our archive of webinars, then please visit our website bizsmart.co.uk and go to the Smart Room page. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day and you can join us again very soon. Thank you for listening.